Wow.
Hi, we are Group 6 and Group 10. Today we are going to introduce the story about Narcissus and Echo. I'm Danica and I'm Harold.
I'm Nico and I'm Echo.
I'm Esther and I'm Narcissus.
I'm Z and Nerd.
I'm Ella, I'm Christy.
I'm Phoebe, and Narcissus' father and mother.
I'm Sharon and I will introduce the story.
Wow.
The first character is Narcissus. He was a hunter and everyone admired his beauty. And many people fell in love with him. And he was the son of the river god and the son of the mountain goddess. Narcissus was too sorrowful because he never got the response from the reflection of the pool. So he died in the end. And Narcissus stands for the flower, this flower. In Chinese, we call it 水仙花. Next. The second character is Echo. She is an Orient, and she is also a mountain goddess. She was punished by Hera. Why was she punished by Hera? We will tell you later. So she can only repeat the last words that another person just said. And she is also too sorrowful, so her bones turn into a stone in the end.
Now I'm going to introduce the characters presented. The first is Narcissus, and he is arrogant and he is proud of his good-looking face. And he never accepts other women's admiration because he thinks they are not beautiful enough. Next. And the second is Echo. Echo is talkative, so Athena likes to play with her and chatting with her. But she has a disadvantage is that he likes to talk about other people's secrets. Yes.
Hi, I'm going to introduce the story. One day, when Narcissus was hunting in the woods, he was seen by Echo, and she fell in love with such a handsome boy, and secretly followed him. However, she couldn't say anything to him, because she delayed Hera to catch the mountain goddess and Zeus. Hera was very angry and punished Echo, that she can only repeat the last sentence of others. One day, Narcissus found a lake. It was smooth as a mirror. When he got close, he found that there is a handsome person in it and looked at him. He was attracted by the man and fell in love with him. He stared at the lake and did nothing else day by day. Echo was sad to see this. So when Narcissus began to talk to his lover, Echo would repeat his last sentence as the answer from his reflection in the lake. Finally, Narcissus gave up the hope and passed away. The god felt the infatuation with Narcissus, so they turned his body into the flower, reflect in the water day and night. No matter how long Echo waited, her love didn't fade. Eventually, she got skinny with hunger, and over time, her body turned into dust and her bones turned into stones.
Okay, it's video time. Let's enjoy it.
Echo was one of the many nymphs that lived in the forests of ancient Greece. And she had an
你要把它
extraordinary
那个移过去。
Echo was one of the many nymphs that lived in the forests of ancient Greece, and she had an extraordinary talent for talking. In other words, she could tell great stories, but she was a bit of a chatterbox.
Down through the valleys and the hills. It's just marvelous. That reminds me of the story I was going to tell you about.
One day, Hera, queen of the gods, came down from Mount Olympus in search of her husband Zeus, the great king of the gods. Hera was in a hurry and was not what you would call a patient woman. Every time she tried to ask Echo if she had seen Zeus, the well-meaning but not very tactful Echo managed to interrupt her.
Nymph, have you seen...
It has been so long since you visited our woods, and we are honored to see you.
Yes, naturally. But what I want to know is...
Have you ever noticed how sweet the air is when the west wind passes over the fields of lavender?
Look, child, I want to know...
Lavender is my very favorite herb. If I'm ever feeling nervous or tense,
Unfortunately for Echo, Hera was not the kind of goddess who liked to stand around chatting with talkative nymphs.
Yeah, and I also...
Words! You have far too many words for one little nymph. Nobody else can get a word in edgewise. Well, I'll fix that. From now on, you will only be able to repeat what has just been said to you. That will make you a better listener. Now leave me.
Echo tried to plead with Hera for forgiveness, but all she could say was,
Now leave me.
Go!
Go.
Scram!
Cram.
Poor Echo wandered through the forest alone. Her life seemed all but over until one day she spotted a handsome boy named Narcissus, who was hunting in the woods. Instantly, she fell deeply in love. She wanted desperately to tell him so, but of course she couldn't say a single word until someone else spoke first. She would just have to wait for the right moment. What Echo didn't know was that many a girl before her had tried to attract the attention of the splendid Narcissus, but it seemed that no one could catch his eye. That is, until the day that he happened to see his own reflection in a pool of water. Of all the pretty faces he'd seen, Narcissus had never found one more fascinating than his own.
Perfection. Utter perfection. You're fabulous.
This was Echo's chance. From her hiding place behind a rock, she repeated the words that she so longed to say.
You're fabulous.
Narcissus grew more and more enchanted with his own image. He never once looked away from his reflection, for he was now sure it had spoken back to him.
I've never said this to anyone. I believe I love you.
I love you.
But as Narcissus reached into the water to try to touch the face that so fascinated him, it simply disappeared.
Don't leave me.
Dismayed at the sudden loss of his only love, Narcissus plunged into the deep pool. Echo rushed out from behind the rock. But it was too late. All she could say were the words that she last heard.
Don't leave me.
Echo's grief was unbearable. She wandered through the mountains without eating or drinking. And slowly, she faded away until all that was left of her was her voice. According to the ancient Greeks, Echo's spirit still exists in all the mountains and caves of the world. And you can even hear her today, repeating the last words of anyone who calls out to her. Hello!
Hello. Hello. Hello.
As for Narcissus, he didn't disappear forever either. In fact, a very strange thing happened. On the very spot where he was last seen, a beautiful flower grew. And as it grew, it leaned over the pool, still trying to get a look at itself. The flower, of course, is called the Narcissus.
Narcissus a la Schmo. A couple of people in love with the same guy. Love is a beautiful thing. It brings people together, helps us through hard times, and basically keeps the planet going. Unfortunately, love can also get a little crazy, and then it's not such a beautiful thing. Take Echo, a young and beautiful nymph who deceived Zeus' wife Hera so that she wouldn't discover he was messing around with a bunch of mountain nymphs. Echo had a pretty sweet life until Hera caught wise and took away Echo's voice. She roamed around the forest until she met, or rather spied, on Narcissus.
Hubba hubba.
A good-looking guy who was so in love with himself he wouldn't even look at anyone else.
I'm sexy and I know it.
So, because he would never be hers, Echo withered away to nothing.
I can't eat, I can't sleep.
Narcissus ultimately bit the dust because he couldn't have the love of his life, himself.
They can't swim.
So, which one of these two were creepier?
Give it to me, it's mine.
Can't say we'd enjoy an evening with either one, but we know one thing. Echo was one scary nymph. Lusting after a lost love is bad enough, but stalking someone is definitely not cool. But maybe Narcissus is even creepier, because what could be creepier than being literally in love with yourself? Here was a guy who could have had anyone, but was arrogant enough to reject anyone who ever tried to love him, and ended up dying alone, staring at his own reflection. Most stories feature at least one good, virtuous character to contrast against the weirdos and sleazeballs, but not in Greek mythology. Pretty much all of those guys had issues. So between Echo and Narcissus, who wins the creepy prize? A girl who stalks a guy who doesn't love her?
Who's there?
Or a handsome guy who can't be dragged away from a mirror? We're not sure, but maybe both of them could have used a few sessions on Dr. Logo's couch.
I'm not sitting on that.
What's your verdict? Shmup amongst yourselves.
Way before the first selfie, the ancient Greeks and Romans had a myth about someone a little too obsessed with his own image. In one telling, Narcissus was a handsome guy wandering the world in search of someone to love. After rejecting a nymph named Echo, he caught a glimpse of his own reflection in a river and fell in love with it. Unable to tear himself away, Narcissus drowned. A flower marked the spot where he died, and we call that flower the Narcissus. The myth captures the basic idea of narcissism, elevated and sometimes detrimental self-involvement. But it's not just a personality type that shows up in advice columns. It's actually a set of traits classified and studied by psychologists. The psychological definition of narcissism is an inflated, grandiose self-image. To varying degrees, narcissists think they're better looking, smarter, and more important than other people, and that they deserve special treatment. Psychologists recognize two forms of narcissism as a personality trait: grandiose and vulnerable narcissism. There's also narcissistic personality disorder, a more extreme form, which we'll return to shortly. Grandiose narcissism is the most familiar kind, characterized by extroversion, dominance, and attention-seeking.
Okay, it's very important. You can write it down.
Okay, it's drama time.
Cephesus and Hero went to find Priest. Priest told his parents he could have a bright future if he never saw himself in the mirror.
Wow, it's a handsome boy. I never seen so handsome boy in the world. Hey, please, look at my baby.
Wow. Your son is extremely handsome, statuesque, and gorgeous.
Wow, I want to ask you some question. How was my baby be in the future?
He can never take a look at himself in the mirror. It's important, remember.
Okay.
Hera was going to find Zeus, and so while he's playing around with all the fairies, but Echo kept talking to Hera and didn't let her.
Hera, they are so beautiful. Look at there.
Leave me alone. I have something important to do. I missed the time to catch Zeus with those women. I'm going to punish you.
No.
You
Why?
can't speak. You can't speak anymore. You can only repeat someone just say. Ha! Leave me alone.
Leave me alone.
Go.
Go.
One day, Narcissus was seeing the Echo while he was hunting in the woods. She was enchanted by him and followed him behind her. Echo was unable to speak to Narcissus because of the punishment